at the last one being the risk management. So you've touched on it also quite briefly, especially when you're talking about financial strategies and some of the reason or basis where the risks come from. Here, now we are all about what we call enterprise strategy, the risks that affect the organization. Because when a business is running, every day it's exposed to risk. There's reputational risk, there's non-compliance risk, there is loss of key personnel, there is liquidity risk. So each and every day a business operates, there is a risk that what it was worried about has materialized. But the same is true about us. You could then be sitting here and you could be what? Electrified. You could, a house can burn down. You could be driving from work and you get into an accident. So that's the same with a business. All these things are what it faces on a daily basis. And as much as it's sometimes true that there could be risks that if they occur, you can live with it. And there are those that if they occur, that will cause a great strain to you. Is the same and true about a business. So when we start our P3 journey, we will be talking about what we call what enterprise risk. And that's where we're going to understand what do we mean when we say risk? How do we measure risk? How do we identify risk? What are the strategies to manage risk? So that is what we'll be laboring on under the first one. Then we look at strategic risks. The more long-term kind of risks that an organization is faced with, the ones that take probably a significant amount of investment to resolve. Then there are internal controls that are used as a basis to limit the risks that we've got. I mean, recently, I'm sure you might have seen this situation about the bursary specialist from KPMG who was misdirecting the bursary funds. And you'll be sitting there and say, but was this part of KPMG's risk register? If it was, then what internal controls did they put in place? Were they not sound? And this is where we talk about a not sound environment is where someone has got so much power over a particular process because there are not enough internal controls to manage that power. Then that's what we labor on them. Then lastly, it's cyber risk, which are some of the things that have become quite common. So we have, therefore, risk as our daily bread here. You will be able to consider confidently roles in risk management after here. Yes, there will be some specialist courses that you can take once you're in the role to grow yourself. But in terms of how the board looks at risks, you are in it. Then that's what we then are looking at. And that it's all about that, how to deal with risks. And in terms of the topics give themselves away. I mean, when we start our journey, and now you might be hearing Manda and I say risk, risk, risk. But do you think we are talking about the same risks? In other words, do we understand risk in the same way? And also, do you understand risk in the same way that we understand it? So we will not want then for us to be talking and imagining risk, and all of us in the room have got a different perspective on it. So journey number one is to then unpack what do we mean when we say risk. And therefore, if we know what is risk, do we know what is risk management? And after that, we're going to talk about those risks that if they occur, it's red for the organization. That is strategic risk. And now Ellis, the aerial kind of company that we've always known to be the provider of DSTV aerial, is going out of business. It is in the process of liquidating. Then you might be saying that at what point, yes, there were a number of things that went wrong, but the final nail was when they made a bid for a particular company and what they needed was funding. And that funding was a strategic risk because the inability to secure that funding resulted in them to be where they are. So when we talk about strategic risk, we are talking about those kind of risks. And we're going to talk and unpack them even more so that you can be able to identify different contexts and understand how an organization manages such. And some of them include even what we call reputational risks. And we're going to talk about the source of reputational risk. And more importantly, risk management happens not in silos. You cannot just give a senior manager to manage risk. This has to be the board's accountability. So we have to now talk about risk governance, or otherwise corporate governance in the context of risk management. And you'll understand that is something that is also dealt with in King 4. Then we're going to talk about internal controls, as well as the role of internal audit in ensuring effective controls for an organization. And lastly, when we close off P3, we will then be looking at cyber risk, where now we are talking to cybersecurity threats. What are cybersecurity processes, as well as tools and techniques, as well as reporting of cybersecurity related risks. So that is our module here. And as you can see, it has risk as its primary. So the name risk management is well fitting. The purpose is not just to know what it is, but it is to know how to manage them. You're going to get to learn about the fact that not all risk has to be dealt with. Some could be just a matter of you can't avoid them, and therefore you might need to accept them. Some, you know that if they happen, you cannot do well. Like for instance, most of you are likely to have insured, say, your car, because you know if your car then gets into an accident, it's written off, you've got a big problem. So you will want not to experience that problem. So you want to transfer the risk from your side to an insurance company. So those are some of the things we're going to be doing here, and you're going to really enjoy it. And it is very important that you see it as strategic aspect to say that risk is not just happening in a particular environment, but it happens, as Manda was saying, in the company's business strategy. Because you, as a senior manager, you are going to have a CEO or a board that says, we want this. Then you might then say, board, for you to get this, we require this, and this might be a problem to overcome. And if this occurs, so that's your role. You will therefore be expected to do such. So it is very important to then do what? To then be in a position where you understand risk, understand how it is to be managed, and understand where its source is, what is its likelihood, what is its magnitude, and how to manage it. That's it in this module. So that is what we're going to be covering in what? In P3. And with that, that's all we have for tonight. So this is what you can expect from the management level. And as I'm saying, after you've gone through this, and you had Manda as well, you are then going to be able to embrace those 5 skills. Technical business skills, digital risks, digital skills, leadership, governance issues, as well as people management, which is also a key part when you talk about internal controls. People are very important in internal controls. Because the reason we need internal controls is because people have got selfish desires. If now I know I'm in a jam and you are giving me money and I realize that if I take 10,000, you'll not be able to see it. Like, I will likely look out for my interest. So you have to manage me. That's how we are. And that's where understanding people comes in, so that you can understand if they are under pressure, this is how they will act. And therefore, these are the internal controls we need to put in place. So that is something that I'm hoping we're going to enjoy unpacking together and gelling together in this regard. So that is all that we have had for tonight. If you've got any questions, looking forward to hear from you. Any questions before we call it a night? Okay. I don't see any questions, so all good. Then we'll catch up over the weekend. No, I will catch up next week for the strategic. Over the weekend is the management. So thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.